Tonight on Dr. Phil Primetime.
We have arrested more illegal aliens in the country, criminals, in the first 6 weeks of this administration than Joe Biden did in an entire year.
Let's talk about Mahmoud Khalil. What was your position on arresting this green card holder that was agitating on the Columbia campus?
We remove resident aliens all the time when they violate the law. If we don't follow those rules, then the great benefit you got from us is going to be taken back. We're going to secure the border. We're going to make our community safer, and that's what we're doing. Every TDA member, every national security threat that we arrest and remove from this country makes this country more safe.
Well, welcome to a very special episode of Dr. Phil Primetime tonight. I'm sitting down with border czar Tom Homan. He joins me for a one-on-one exclusive interview with up-to-the-moment breakdowns on the efforts to secure the U.S. border and a lot of other immigration issues. Now, believe me, Tom does not hold back as we discuss sanctuary cities, the latest efforts to deport TDA gang members. These are the ones from Venezuela that you have been reading about, and the arrest of Columbia University graduate student Mahmoud Khalil. Plus, is Tom worried about retaliation from the drug cartels? Where does he stand on the federal judge that's trying to stop these flights deporting dangerous gang members from the United States? And are Mexico and Canada doing enough to shore up the borders on their end? Look, this is a wide-ranging and in-depth look at this incredibly urgent crisis of dangerous criminals that have already gotten into the United States of America. We realize that although they seem to have gotten the border under control, that millions are already in this country, some of them dangerous criminals. I asked him some questions everybody wants to know. Are they sweeping neighborhoods? Are they targeting hospitals and schools? All of this and a whole lot more coming up in my exclusive and candid interview with border czar Tom Homan. It all starts right now. Tom Homan, it's good to see you again. You have been moving around a lot, getting busy doing your job. You've been traveling quite a bit, correct?
Yeah, I've been on the road pretty much constantly, heading around the country, overseeing these enforcement operations throughout the country.
Just in general, I have a lot of specific questions, but how would you say things are going so far as how you expected them to go in these first couple of months?
Look, we're doing great. Border numbers down 96%. That's, we got the most secure border in my lifetime, even better than Trump 45. I mean, the border's locked down pretty much. We're down to, less than 100 gotaways every day. That comes down from a high of 1,800 under the last administration. So the border's secure. I think, rather than releasing thousands of people in the country every day, we've got a total of one, and that was for a humanitarian issue, significant medical issue. So the border's locked down. As far as interior enforcement, we have arrested more illegal aliens in the country, criminals, in the first 6 weeks of this administration than Joe Biden did in an entire year. So we're doing good. Well, we need more arrests. Sanctuary cities are kind of, slowing us down on our efficiencies, but we just send more teams to the sanctuary cities. But the numbers are great. Numbers are blowing the last administration out of the water, but I want more.
Right, of course. And let's talk about the sanctuary cities. How is it going with them? What are you asking them to do, and where are you getting the resistance?
We're simply asking sanctuary cities to let us into the jail. Let our officers into your taxpayer-funded jail to speak to an illegal alien that you arrested for a public safety crime. That the local community, you locked him in a jail cell, so obviously he's a public safety threat. We want access to that person. So we don't have to send teams to the neighborhood. So we can decrease the number of collateral arrests. That is our ask. Now, New York City is taking steps, very close to an agreement there. And that mayor is coming through as we committed to, and he's making some things happen in the very near future. I'm happy with that. As far as most other sanctuary cities, the they're governors of these sanctuary cities. They're governors of states saying, well, we're not sanctuary states. We want to come to the table and help with criminal alien and help remove them. Words aren't matching their actions. Actions haven't happened yet. So I'm out there. I just left New York, called out the governor of New York. I've called out the governor of Illinois. I've called out the governor of Colorado. So we're going to keep, addressing the issue to the American people and let the American people know, despite what governors may say in sanctuary states, they're not doing what they're saying they're doing. So we're going to keep calling them out until we get some action.
All right, now let me be sure that I am not oversimplifying this and understand this. Your primary ask of all states, and certainly that we're focusing on the sanctuary states, is these are cities and states where they have arrested someone for an alleged crime. They've arrested someone that they thought this person is enough of a threat to public safety that we've taken them off the street and incarcerated them, independent of their immigration status. We just thought they were a risk to public safety. They're either trafficking drugs or prostitution or committing violent crimes, whatever. We thought they were enough of a threat that we, independent of immigration status, took them off the street and put them in jail. Okay, then you come along and say, in addition to that, they're in violation of our immigration policy. We want to come into the jail and take them off of your hands. What's their problem with that?
They simply don't want to work with ICE. They simply won't respond to our request to hold them so we can talk to them. They won't respond to our request to actually walk into the jail and speak to them. What people need to understand, when you get arrested in any jurisdiction, when they run your fingerprints through NCIC, everybody gets booked into jail. First thing they do is run your fingerprints. If that person's in the country illegally and we have a prior record on them, we get a copy because that the same data is run against DHS databases. So we know at this moment when we get the printout out, okay, they just arrested. Let's use Tom Homan. They just arrested Tom Homan in Cook County, Chicago. He just got fingerprinted. He was arrested for a crime. We get notification. We have some prior immigration history, so we notify the jail. We need to talk to this guy.
You get the information, you know the person is there. So one agent can walk through the front door of that jail knowing that that person is in there, and we know that he is alone, doesn't have his gang around him necessarily. We know that he doesn't have a gun on him, assumably, certainly lower likelihood than if he was on the street. You can have him brought into an interrogation room in shackles, and you can look this person in the face, you can verify it's who you think it is, and at that point, one agent could take him into custody, walk him outside, put him in a vehicle, and take him to an ICE detention center and start processing him for deportation. You don't need a whole team of agents. You don't need hundreds of man hours. You don't need to put the community at risk or make collateral arrest around that person. You can just walk them straight out, put them into a car, take them to an ICE detention center and start processing them for deportation. And they don't want to do that. What is their explanation as to why?
Their problem is that they want to stick to a sanctuary city policy, not work with ICE, and they claim. Well, here's what they claim, which simply I don't believe, is that they're a sanctuary city. They don't want to work with ICE because they want victims and witnesses of crime, if they're from the immigrant community, to feel safe reporting those crimes without fear, if they're in the country illegally, that the police department is not working with ICE. That's just a false narrative. Because we don't want to talk to the victim and witness. We want to talk to the bad guy, the person they locked into a jail cell. And I'm sure the victim and witness of crimes don't want the victim released back in the community where the victim and witness live. So it's just a false narrative, because they need to understand the victim and witness that crime are much safer if the perpetrator, the bad guy, the criminal, is in our custody rather than being released back in the community to reoffend. So it's a false narrative saying they want the immigrant community to have any fear coming to the police or working with ICE. I think if they went to the immigrant community and had a town hall and asked the community and the victim witness, would you rather have ICE arrest the bad guy in the jail, or would you rather have us release him in the community and ICE have to find him? I think all of the communities would want us to deal with the bad guy in the jail. It just makes perfect sense.
is this just coming down to politics? Is that what it amounts to? Because clearly they would rather have that criminal that has victimized them out of the country than back in the community. So we must just be talking about politics here because it makes no common sense.
Absolutely. They're putting politics over public safety. I have not met one street cop. I'm talking about the men and women wearing the uniform working the streets that doesn't want to work with ICE. They want the public safety threats out of their communities too. So they're going to reoffend, and police officers in some cities are arresting the same illegal alien 4 or 5 times a day. They want to work with ICE too, because once not only you can remove them from the neighborhood, we can remove them from the country. And that means more officers can address other issues in the community rather than dealing with the same bad guy over and over again. So the street officers, the ones on the front line, they're with us. It's the politicians. It's the mayors, the governors, and some chiefs who work for a mayor that's simply putting politics over public safety.
Well, you and I have been together in different cities, in different states across this country, and I've seen street cops, sheriffs, they come rushing up to you like Elvis is in the building. They all want to work with you. They all appreciate you bringing your leadership and your resources to their community. Every one of them, everywhere we go, the street cops all come up and thank you for what you're doing, whether they're politicians supported or not. They all privately come up to you, shake your hand, and say thank you for what you're doing. The street cops, the sheriffs, all of them are 100% on board with what you're doing because they have to deal with those criminals.
It's because they're cops. I mean, they took an oath. They put that badge on their chest, and they strap up every day with a gun to protect their communities. They put the community safety first. So, and I say all the time, as cops working with the cops, they want to work with law enforcement officers at ICE to make their community safer. That's the number one goal of every one of these men and women who take that oath. They're not making a lot of money, none of them. But they're doing it for the right reasons, to serve their communities and make their communities safer. And the number one goal is remove public safety threats from those communities, whether they charge them under their own crimes and lock them up to face consequences, or if they're illegally in the United States, work with ICE to let us enforce the laws and get them deported so they're not dealing with these people over and over again. That makes the community safer. The street cops also know if we have access to the bad guy in the jail, it's always safer for the community, because when you release that person without notifying ICE, they're going to be free to recommit. I just got one example from Massachusetts where there was a child rapist. An illegal alien raped a child. They released him, didn't under detain her. It took us 2 years to find that person. So how many young children did this illegal alien rape in the 2 years it took us to find them? Police officers get it. Politicians get it. But they're putting politics over public safety, as obvious, and it's disgusting.
Well, it is disgusting. Let's talk about this Green Guard situation. The example being Mahmoud Khalil, who was arrested for deportation for agitating at Columbia. This is something that has a lot of the people on the left, ACLU, and others all been out of shape. And I don't understand what the issue is. What is it that has people all up in arms about this? What was your position on arresting this green card holder that was agitating on the Columbia campus?
Look, the Secretary of State took his authority. You have somebody who's saying and doing things that are in direct conflict with our foreign policy, and it's going to affect our foreign relationships with other countries. It's just not what he said, it's what he did. But the left is saying, well, he has free speech, he has the First Amendment rights. Everybody has First Amendment rights. However, I can't walk in a movie theater and scream fire. I can't get on an airplane and say, I got a bomb. I can't call up a hitman and tell him to kill my wife for $10,000. There's a limit to First Amendment rights. It doesn't allow you to violate the law. Many things that are said verbally are in direct violation of the law. So it's beyond the First Amendment. It's just not what he said, it's what he did. He formed a group on a campus, and first of all, he wasn't even a college student on the Columbia campus, but he had a facility there. You can't take over a building. You can't assault college campus people. You can't call for the annihilation of Jewish people. You can't destroy government property. And you can't hand out pamphlets supporting a terrorist organization, Hamas. So it's not just what he said, it's what he did. And the Secretary of State has a full authority to cancel his status and remove him. That comes under the power of the Secretary of State. And the Secretary of State, look, we bring thousands of people in this country on a visa, and a lot of people get resident alien status. But with those programs comes requirements, and one of the requirements, you can't violate the law. We remove resident aliens all the time when they violate the law. This is no different.
The executive order, look at the fact sheet. The president said immediate action will be taken by the Department of Justice to protect law and order, quell pro-Hamas vandalism and intimidation, and investigate and punish anti-Jewish racism in leftist, anti-American violation of our laws, deport Hamas sympathizers, and revoke student visas. And he said, and I quote, to all the resident aliens who joined in the pro-jihadist protest, we put you on notice come 2025. We will find you and we will deport you. I will also quickly cancel student visas of all Hamas sympathizers on college campuses. These people were on notice. They were told, you do this, you're gone. And they continue to do it blatantly, publicly, in front of cameras, loving the attention. What do they expect to happen?
Well, like I said, the president has been clear on this from day one. Getting a visa to come to this country or getting your green card, that is a privilege. That is a privilege to be part of the greatest nation on earth, whether you're on a visa or a resident alien card. And you would be held accountable to our rules and our laws and our regulations. And a lot of people are screaming and yelling that he has the same rights as an American citizen.
We don't have that right.
Exactly. In some aspects they do, but in this aspect they don't. There are certain rules and regulations they must follow. When we give someone a student visa, there are conditions of that visa, conditions of release, that you got to follow certain rules. If you don't follow those rules, then the great benefit you got from us is going to be taken back. That's called consequences. We got to have a consequence that people that come to this country under false pretenses, claim they're going to come here to study, but rather they come here and want to support Hamas and take over college campuses and threaten the lives of other students. That's not going to be tolerated. They might have got away with that under President Biden, but they will not get away with that under President Trump. We will hold them accountable.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio actually used AI to identify these people that were participating in this kind of activity. Is that a help?
Oh, absolutely. We're using some AI, and not only in this issue, but searching out criminal aliens and trying to determine, where we can locate criminal aliens. As you and I have talked about many times, everybody has a digital footprint, right? But illegal aliens have less of a footprint because they may not, probably most likely don't own a home, and many don't have driver's licenses. So they got a smaller footprint than you and I have. So AI has been a great benefit. Like I said, we arrested more aliens in the first 6 weeks of this administration than Joe Biden did. I'm talking the interior in the entire year, because we're using tools like AI to help locate these people. AI has been a great benefit.
How many people have been shipped off that are considered to be TDA? How many have been shipped off to El Salvador at this point?
Well, we had some shipped off to Venezuela before, but this latest flight, it was a total of 263 people. The vast majority were TDAs. There was about 21 MS-13 members that included in that group. So you can subtract them. So we removed 21 members of MS-13. And these are people El Salvador wanted. This is where MS-13 is born and raised in El Salvador. It's originated there. So the president wanted them back as quickly as possible. So we put that 21 on the plane, along with 240 TDAs that were sent this past weekend.
Now, a judge tried to stop that. In fact, he said, if these planes haven't taken off, if they've taken off, they need to turn around. If they haven't taken off, they need to stop. This was Judge Boasberg. You didn't take kindly to him trying to stop you doing your job.
No, because the TDA they've been designated as terrorist organizations. Look, in the past year, how many TDA members have raped and murdered young women in this country? They're flooding our communities with fentanyl that's killed over 250,000 Americans. We see them taking over apartment buildings. We see them attacking U.S. citizens in our major cities across the country. we truly believe TDA, based on a lot of investigations, a lot of work done by experts, that they are an arm of the Maduro regime. And called an incursion in the United States, called an invasion. They come to the United States to unsettle this country by killing Americans with fentanyl, attacking U.S. citizens in our cities. They are an enemy of the United States. By pure definition, TDA is an enemy of the United States. They didn't come here for the right reasons. They came here to commit to do horrendous acts. So the president took his authority, along with the Secretary of State and the Secretary of DHS, to designate them terrorist organizations. What we did this weekend is removed 240 terrorists. The terrorists were on that plane, so we don't think any district judge has a right to say, okay, turn that plane around, even though you're in international waters, or maybe refuel the plane over international waters and bring terrorists back to the United States. No, we removed these public safety threats and terrorists from the United States. That's exactly what we did. The president has a right to invoke the Alien Enemies Act, and that's what he did. And it's a belief of many in this administration, including DOJ, because Pam Bondi's pushed back against this judge, that he doesn't have the authority to overrule the president when he executes the Alien Enemies Act. I'm not an attorney. I'll let them fight that out in court. But as a cop, a career cop, the ones focused on public safety, we did exactly the right thing. And I can't believe there's any media outlet or any judge that wants to push back and remove it. Terrorists, public safety threats that committed heinous acts in this country, I just don't understand why anybody want to bring them back into the United States when we already had them removed. And we got to remember, not everybody in that plane was the Alien Enemies Act person. Some of them were playing Title VIII removal, has been ordered removed by a judge after due process. They're on the plane too.
This act says if someone is committing an act of war, is there any question that this is an invasion of bad actors with TDA? I mean, they're coming here, as you say, they're using fentanyl, they're using violence. This is a terrorist group. And when we talk about these pro-Hamas people on campus, it seems to me the same way. They are here openly supporting a group that has killed Americans, that has American hostages. They clearly are aligned with enemies of the United States of America. Now, if we interviewed those people when they were asking for a visa or a green card, and they said, by the way, I support the enemies of the United States, those that have killed Americans and are holding American hostages, would they be granted admission to the United States of America? Would I say, sure, come on in?
Absolutely not. They would never got a visa to begin with. But remember, many of these TDA members were released into the United States by the Biden administration. They came across the border and they're released into the United States. Some were paroled, some were just released on their OR. So, and I'll say it again, we spent a lot of investigative manpower. And the reason we use the Alien Enemies Act, because we can show that TDA is infiltrated and a part of the Maduro regime through their military and their law enforcement. There's no question about that. We can fact check that all day. The Maduro regime sent them here to unsettle this country. And President Trump's been clear about that even before he's president, that this was what was occurring. As soon as he got in office, we started taking steps to hold these people accountable, hold these countries accountable, and that's what we're doing. Again, President Trump promised American people the mandate he got from the American people. Number one issue is immigration enforcement and border security. He made a promise to American people, we're going to decrease illegal alien crime, we're going to secure the border, we're going to make our community safer, and that's what we're doing. Every criminal safety threat, every TDA member, every national security threat that we arrest and remove from this country makes this country more safe. No one can disagree with that. That's just a stone cold common sense fact. But now we get back to politics. We got the left pushing back on everything President Trump is doing. And what I find shocking is last week I had a camera put in my face pushing back on the fact that we removed over 200 terrorists, gang members, public safety threats from this country within the framework of the law. The Alien Enemies Act, and I was asked, well, the Alien Enemies Act, that's an old law. And I responded, so is in the Constitution, but we use that every day. So look, the president doing everything he can to keep his promise to American people. And no one should argue. It shouldn't be a partisan issue that we're removing public safety threats and national security threats from this country. TDA are terrorists. They're a public safety threat. It's a gang who's killed thousands of Americans. So it's time we hold them accountable. President Trump's doing that. And we're not going to apologize for doing that. We're not going to change what we're doing.
You're not going to back off of sending people off on these flights to El Salvador or wherever the arrangements are made. You intend to continue to do what you're doing.
We're arresting TDA members today across the country. We'll arrest TDA members tomorrow, and we're going to deport them. Flights are going to leave this country every day. We're going to remove, and as I said, you and I have talked about this many times, Dr. Phil, the president has said we're going to prioritize public safety threats and national security threats. That's exactly what we're going to do, and we're going to continue to do it. We're doing it today. We're going to do it tomorrow. We're going to do it every day. And I won't rest safe, and neither will the president rest until every criminal alien public safety threat, every criminal alien national security threat is eradicated from that country. That's when I'll sleep well at night. Until then, we're going to do this 24/7 and make this country safe again.
And when you are on the street doing this, people understand it. If this is something that maybe ACLU or some activists can make noise about, but are you finding that people on the street, Americans, just moms, dads, just the regular Americans on the street totally get and understand that you're taking bad guys off the street and getting them out of this country? They never should have been let in, and you're getting them back out of this country. Do they get it?
They absolutely get it. Look, I'm not running a popularity contest. You and I talked about it before. I'm doing my job despite the haters and whatever, but I can't walk into a restaurant. I can't walk through an airport without my security team holding people back. Again, most of them are friendly, and I love shaking their hands and talking to them, but we got to make sure they're safe. But I can't move without people walking up to me and thanking President Trump for what we're doing for the American communities in this country, making this country safe. It's sometimes I can't meet them all and shake their hands because we're in a hurry and we're moving from one place to another one. But it's incredible the amount of people who voice their opinion or just walking to the airport. You get a thumbs up from numerous people and a salute. The American people love what we're doing. That's why they elected President Trump on landslide victory, because he said his number one issue was border security and illegal immigrant crime. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's keeping his promise, and people are loving it. And I can't tell you how many people that every day, Dr. Phil, every day, even at entering the grounds of the White House, people have nothing to do with immigration enforcement. Job well done. Keep it up. Keep taking the hate. You're doing the right thing. And again, I'm not running popularity contests. It isn't really me. It deserves the credit. It's the men and women wearing that green uniform, standing post every day, taking on the worst of the worst. It's the men and women of ICE who strapped with a gun to the hip every day to arrest the worst of the worst in a community, putting their lives at great risk when they could have arrested a guy in a county jail or state prison. So it's the men and women of ICE, men and women of the Border Patrol who are making this country great again. They deserve the credit. But I can't tell you how many people, Dr. Phil, I get hundreds of letters every week at the White House. I got people at airports, people at restaurants. It's just incredible how the American people have responded to what President Trump's doing for this country.
Well, I've seen it when I moved about the country with you, and I'm curious, you're talking about 235, 250, whatever it is. How many do you think it's going to take to really break the power structure of these gangs that have come in from foreign countries and have a grip on certain communities? We've seen it in Colorado, where I think TDA is very organized in Texas. I've told you of some areas in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that they've taken over apartment complexes, and they tend to come in and first victimize their countrymen that fled their country to get away from them. So they seem to come into the country and first victimize their fellow countrymen and get a foothold there and then start spreading out. How many of these people do you think are going to have to be captured and deported before you're able to break their power structure in America?
It's going to be thousands. And look, what's the sad thing is, I don't know how many TDA members are in this country right now, because under the last administration, we had 2.2 million known gotaways. These are people across the border caught on video, drone traffic, or sensor traffic. We've seen them cross the border, but they were apprehended and fingerprinted because Border Patrol is too busy with the millions of people coming across, dealing with that humanitarian crisis. So we don't know, but we're counting on local law enforcement. We get a lot of intel from local law enforcement, frontline people. We're working with the FBI, we're working with the U.S. Marshal Service, we're working with ATF, we're working with DEA and diplomatic security. President Trump has all the government looking at this. We're bringing all these other federal agencies and state and local agencies to work with us, trying to target where TDA operates. For instance, New York City. I'm counting on NYPD to share their intel with us on where do you see TDA activity, so we can concentrate in those areas. So I don't have a clean answer for that, but I want to bring back one other issue that you mentioned, them attacking people from their own country, and they do that because they think if they attack people in their own country, they won't report it to the police because they may be in the country illegally too, or have some sort of visa issue. And that is, again, a result of sanctuary cities not being truthful to the communities, telling them, look, if you're illegal in the United States, you can still come to us report crimes. ICE is looking for the guy in the jail, not you, but rather they keep feeding this narrative that ICE is out separating families. You're out doing neighborhood sweeps. We're looking, we're out there, sweeping neighborhoods and looking for people different than us. It's the left that's causing fear in the immigrant community, and that's why they don't report crimes. So they think ICE is out there sweeping neighborhoods. If these sanctuary cities be honest with the people that we're coming to them to let us into the jail to arrest a bad guy, illegal aliens there'll be less victims that are in the country illegally from these gangs that they feel comfortable coming to the police department and reporting they're being attacked by MS-13, they're being attacked by TDA. They would be more welcome to come report those crimes. But because the sanctuary cities won't be truthful with them, a lot of them don't report the crime. That's why they're a prime target for these illegal alien gangs in the country.
I've had some aliens report to me just on the street. One of them was telling me, my wife is pregnant and I want her to have prenatal care, but we've been told by our representatives, if we go to the doctor, ICE is staking out the doctor's offices, and when we go to the doctor, where they know we have to go if we get sick or if a woman is pregnant, that they're going to be sitting there and they're going to snatch us up right there, and we're going to go into an ICE detention center and get reported. So we're not going to the doctor. Is that true?
People in our country illegally can self-deport the easy way, or they can get deported the hard way, and that's not pleasant. Now my administration is launching the CBP Home app to give people in our country illegally an easy way to leave now and self-deport voluntarily. If they do, they could potentially have the opportunity to return legally at some point in the future. But if they do not avail themselves of this opportunity, then they will be found, they will be deported, and they will never be admitted again to the United States.
I've had some aliens report to me just on the street. One of them was telling me, my wife is pregnant and I want her to have prenatal care, but we've been told by our representatives, if we go to the doctor, ICE is staking out the doctor's offices, and when we go to the doctor, where they know we have to go if we get sick or if a woman is pregnant, that they're going to be sitting there and they're going to snatch us up right there, and we're going to go into an ICE detention center and get reported. So we're not going to the doctor. Is that true?
No, that upsets me. It's a false narrative. They did the same thing during Trump 45, right? Let's abolish ICE. ICE are racist. They're brown shirts, and they're in the communities trying to rip apart communities. That is so false. Look, being a country illegal is a problem, right? That's a violation. We know being a country illegal is a problem. But we want people to go to church. We want people to go see a doctor. We want people to go to hospital. We're not being inhumane about any of this. And they keep pointing at the sense of location policy that we did away with. that said we couldn't do any actions in the church or in the school or in the college campus. What we did, we ended a policy that we're the only federal law enforcement agency that had that policy. We made it clear from day one, we're not going to be raiding churches, or we're not going to be raiding schools. However, if you have an MS-13 gang member, violent gang member, we know he's a senior in this high school, he's there right now, we've been looking for him, we know he's there, we're going to go in that school like every other federal or state or local law enforcement agency does every day and arrest that one public safety threat. Doesn't mean we're raiding a school, doesn't mean we're raiding a hospital. We want people to go to school. We want people to go to churches. But again, because the left pushes this false narrative to try to vilify the men and women of ICE and vilify the Trump administration, that is causing great harm in the community. And you want to talk about inhumane? That's inhumane. Where you scare the community so they don't seek medical attention. They don't go, to the food bank and, and get food, or they don't go to, not sending their kids to elementary school because they said ICE is going to raid elementary schools. It's disgusting. And we knew what was going to happen. We knew day one, as soon as we got President Trump came into power, there's going to be an attack on this administration, trying to vilify everything we've done. But anybody can look at the ICE data, go to the ICE website or CBP website, and look who we're arresting. Look who we're removing. Vast majority are criminals. We're keeping our word, but the left's never going to admit to it.
Well, I've seen the files. You are targeting individual criminals. And I've seen the file. Investigations are done. Their records are looked at from their home country and in this country. You're not going out and saying, let's just sweep this block and get everybody here that is an illegal alien. You're saying, and you may go into a school, but it's to get an individual. You're not going down the hallway and saying, let's find everybody that doesn't have the proper paperwork. You're going in, if there's an MS-13 gang member there or a TDA gang member there that maybe is trafficking drugs in that school or whatever, you'll go in and get that individual and take them out. But that doesn't mean you're raiding the schools, you're raiding the hospitals, you're raiding the healthcare centers. You're going after an individual. And if that's where they happen to be and you know it, you'll go in and get them, but you're not in there raiding that facility, raiding that organization. That's what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And it's rare that we would ever go to a school, arrest one person, or go to a hospital, arrest one person. Matter of fact, I don't think we've done any. Zero. The only time we will go into a school, if it's a significant public safety threat, we can't find them any place else. We fail to locate them. Or they're a significant national security threat. Men and women at ICE are very good at what we do. Yeah, I don't think there's been one arrest on any school, in any school other than the college campus. We've arrested people on the college campus that were national security threats, but I don't think there's been one arrest in high school. There certainly hasn't been any arrests in elementary school. There hasn't been one arrest in a religious facility, a church, because it's rare. It's rare, but because we did away with that policy and that no other law enforcement agency had, any federal, state, or local agency had, we're cops, we're going to do the same thing they do. It's rare that we would ever even do that. But the left is scaring the community, because that adds to the vilification of this administration to the men and women of ICE. The men and women of ICE every day stand on the line and do the best they can to protect this country. And it's just a shame they get vilified. Every ICE officer is a mother, father, daughter, son. They don't hang their hearts on the wall when they go to work. These men and women are saving lives every day. The men and women Border Patrol save thousands of lives every year. These are good people who are just trying to do the best they can to make our community safer. And the constant vilification of them, and all law enforcement is sickening. It's not the country I grew up in. It's men and women choose to go in law enforcement because they want to serve the community. None of them making a lot of money. I can testify to that. They're doing it for the right reasons. We ought to be thanking them. We ought to be respecting them. And that's simply not the message of the left. And again, I'll use the word, it's just disgusting. It's not the America I grew up in. I became a cop because my dad was a cop, my grandfather was a cop. People respect the cops. They want to, serve their communities. And this is what the men and women are doing within ICE and CBP. They're patriots. We should recognize them as that.
I never pass one without stopping and shaking their hands and thanking them. And, as I talk to these men and women, I'm so glad you're saying that, because if I spend a few minutes with them, they're showing me pictures of their children. They're talking about going fishing. They're all the things that we all love to do. These are just regular folks. They're just very committed patriots to keeping the rest of us safe, and they're willing to put on that uniform and that badge and stand in the gap and put themselves in harm's way every single day so the rest of us can sleep well at night. And the people that get that, I mean, they tell me, thank you for telling that story. Thank you for letting people know that these people are out there doing this job. And in like February alone, CBP seized more than 40,000 pounds of fentanyl. I wonder if people really get how many lives that saved. 40,000 pounds of fentanyl could kill, so many 100,000 Americans. You talk about an attack on America. That is so profound. Just in 1 month to get 40,000 pounds of America, these Border Patrol sees that much fentanyl. Now, that how much got by, we don't know, but that's a lot of poison that did not get into this country.
Well, I can tell you a lot less is getting by because 100% of agents are on the line doing the job. They're not making sandwiches, changing diapers, making baby formula, and doing that humanitarian mission because border crossings right now are about 200. We went from a high of almost 12,000 a day to 200, which means more agents on the line, which means you're arresting more public safety threats, more national security threats, and seizing more drugs, right? And and I say it many times. And the people I hate on the Border Patrol, when they're in bed at night, 3 o'clock in the morning, you're sleeping calmly. The men and women in Border Patrol are standing posts someplace, standing on some dirt trail because a sensor just went off, and they know someone's coming northbound on that trail. Their nearest backup's probably 7-8 miles away. They're going to stand there on that dirt trail and take it on. Is it just an illegal alien looking for a better life, or is it a heavily armed drug smuggler? God bless Brian Terry. His anniversary just came out. Brian Terry, the Border Patrol officer that was killed by drug traffickers. They're going to stand there and take it on by themselves with the nearest backup 7-8 miles away. While most of us are in our bed sleeping at night. I know that because I did that job. I stood on that trail many times back as an agent. People need to recognize they're making this country safer today. You're sleeping in your bed safe at night because of law enforcement, the Border Patrol, ICE, all the other federal law enforcement agencies, your local sheriffs, your local police departments. Law enforcement deserves the respect that they don't get because they're standing in a gap, as you say. They're standing posts. They're standing on that line. And God bless each and every one of them. Now, there's bad cops out there. Every profession has bad cops, but the vast majority of these men and women are in it for the right reasons, saving lives every day. Border Patrol agents every day will pull somebody out of the river that's drowning. I've seen them when I was on the border giving CPR to a baby that was thrown in the river by the cartels because they knew if they throw a baby in the river, the agents would go after that baby rather than arresting the cartel member. I've seen it throughout my career. So I love the men and women of Border Patrol, and I'll have their six to the day I die because I wore that uniform. I know what they do. It's dangerous, and a lot of times it's a thankless job because of the attacks they get from the left.
I couldn't agree with you more. Let's talk about the fact that a lot of these, as you say, there are so many. I mean, we're talking in the number of millions here that are illegally in this country. And one of the things that the left seems to ignore that I don't understand is that we've got a system of slavery happening in the United States of America because those that are here are indentured slaves to the cartels because they had to pay money to get here that they didn't have, so they went into debt, and those cartels are now working them in St. Louis, Chicago, New York, all of these different cities where they are working for the cartels, and they can't pay them off with legitimate jobs working at a hotel in laundry service or whatever because they never catch up, so they start pressing them to do illegal acts, to start selling, moving drugs, prostitution, things of that nature. And, how is that compassionate? I don't know how those that are saying we need to protect those people being here, those people are being exploited here by the cartels. And if they don't do what they're being told to do, demanded to do, then their families get tortured or worse back in their home country by the cartels. How do we attack that problem?
We're attacking that right now from different aspects. You're exactly right. We get back to the TDA. TDA is heavy into sex trafficking. TDA is forcing their own citizens of Venezuela, young girls, to turn tricks 24/7, so the TDA can make a profit on them. And so we know many of these people that came in this country that owe the cartels money have been forced into sex trafficking and forced labor. One of the things we just recently did, we got a sex trafficking task force we fired up here at the White House through Homeland Security Task Force. We're attacking those groups, and we got a lot of operations going on nationwide. We also are doing worksite enforcement operations. On the other hand, not just the cartels forcing these people into sex labor and forced labor, but just the hiring of illegal aliens. And I'll say this and I'll mean it. Very few people hire an illegal alien out of the goodness of their heart. They're going to hire because they can pay them less and work them harder. With a threat, they'll turn them into ICE, right? And, the last administration stopped all worksite enforcement operations. Where's the number one place we find victims of forced labor? Worksite operations. Well, we ramped that up. We started worksite enforcement operations. We've already done more worksite enforcement operations in the first 2 months than the last administration did in 4 years. We're doing worksite because that's where we're going to find these victims of trafficking. That's when we find these people in forced labor. So we're hitting that hard, and we're going to even expand that more. So we're taking actions on the forced sex labor. We're taking action on worksite enforcement. The numbers are really impressive, but again, we need to do more. And that's why I am begging members of Congress to give us the budget we need to do more of these operations. We need to buy more detention beds. We need to buy more OCONUS flights outside the United States. We need more resources. We need more intelligence assets. It takes money. So I'm hoping Congress comes through with the money that we need to do this. And I know they signed the CR. That keeps the lights on, but we need more money than that. The more money we have, the more we can do to save people. This is about saving a lot of victims of sex trafficking and forced labor. And it's about, public safety threats, national security threats. We're prioritizing exactly where we should be. And we should have no arguments from either side, since we're prioritizing those very serious things. So again, I hope Congress come by with the money we need to do more of this work, because it's important work. It's life-saving work.
Well, it is. And these people are being abused here in the United States. And if there's a power structure here, and you're going after those bad guys that are running that power structure, when you take those 220, 240 out of the country, those are the bad guys that are exploiting the others. A lot of those people that were taken out aren't here to abuse and exploit the preteens and the teens that are being trafficked sexually or are being put into forced labor. So you may take out 220, that may impact 1,000 that were being exploited on a day-to-day basis because of the people that were all over the top of them and causing them to do things that are inhumane that they wouldn't want to do. And the question is, what happens to their families on the other end if we don't get all of them that are running these enterprises? Because these cartels, that's a multi-billion-dollar business. What's going to happen when they no longer can traffic into the United States? Because that business is going to go down, and they're not going to take that quietly. I mean, they're going to fight back. What's going to happen with these cartels when you do shut them down?
Well, I think the violence will escalate on the border for sure. And they're already trying to find ways around the maritime smuggling, going to the waters on the Atlantic and Pacific, trying to get in the country that way because the border's locked down. We're going to see more, using visa fraud, try to get this country as a student or a visitor or a tourist. They're going to, but we're ahead of it. We're getting, maritime operations that have stepped up. I just had a phone call this morning about that. We're adding more maritime enforcement, whether it's Coast Guard or CBP or even the state, like the state of Florida, stepping up on maritime. So we're trying to stay ahead of it. Well, I think violence is going to increase on the border because exactly what you said. As we lock the border down, they get less fentanyl in the country. They get less victims of sex trafficking in the country. They get less people who pay a lot of money to get in this country from terrorist-sponsored countries and gang members and so forth. We're hitting them in the pocket. And when the cartels have less money, they have less money to buy off the Mexican military, less money to buy off Mexican law enforcement, less money to buy off anybody. So you hit the cartels where it hurts is in the pocket because they lose their money. They can't buy the military-grade weapons. They can't, no bribe government officials. So I think we'll see an uptick in violence on the border just because we're taking billions of dollars out of their pockets. I know based on intelligence reports, they're already pushing more fentanyl into European countries, knowing the market here has been stymied. The market here is going to continue to shrink. So they're looking at other avenues to sell their product beyond the United States. Good or bad, if we can decrease the amount coming into this country, that's always a good thing. But we also need to address the drive, the customers here. We need to address training on that also, and education, why fentanyl is bad and the other narcotics bad. So we're not customers. There's not a need for that market here. So we're already ahead of it. We're addressing what's going to happen down the road, trying to stay one step ahead of them. It's a constant race every day, but that's what we're doing. Our operational plans we deal with every day here. We're trying to stay ahead of the curve and make sure we're there to respond when they change their tactics.
I've got two final questions. Are Mexico and Canada, government-wise, doing enough? Are they doing what they need to do to support your efforts and President Trump's efforts here domestically?
Yes, the both countries done more. They need to do more, but they need to do a little more. I mean, I've met with the officials in Canada. They're doing more than they've ever done. They got to improve in some areas, and Mexico's doing more, but they got to step it up too. So the president's holding them accountable. I mean, we'll continue to meet with them. And as you can see, the tariffs come on, they go off, they go on, they go off because they come to the table with more. And that's what makes President Trump a great negotiator. He's holding their feet to the fire. And I mentioned this on your show before. Let's take Mexico, for example. It's illegal for an illegal alien to transit to Mexico if you're not a citizen of Mexico. It's illegal for an alien from any other country to transit to Mexico without a transit visa. But they've allowed it. It's against the law in Mexico to traffic in women and children, but they've allowed it, turn a blind eye to it. So, they've added military, Canada's added more people to our northern border. Mexico's added more people to our southern border. They're taking steps to address the fentanyl, but not enough. They need to take more steps because fentanyl personally, I think fentanyl is a weapon of mass destruction. It's killed over 250,000 Americans in this country. So more needs to be done on fentanyl. And not just Mexico, we need to do more with China, who produces, who creates the precursors. They sell to the cartels who create it and make that drug in Mexico. So more needs to be done, but we're having conversations every day. I think they're stepping up to play. They're doing more than they did under the Biden administration because we got a strong president who's demanding they take action or face consequences. So it's a path forward, and it's looking good.
I'm glad to hear that. And the search for the children that we know are maybe 300,000 children in this country. Some have found they've disappeared from the records. We don't know where they have gone. Some have probably found their way to family, of course, but others we know have gone into the sex trade and forced labor. Like you say, they don't have a digital footprint, but that's the third prong of your initiatives. Close the border, find the violent criminals and get them out of this country, and then seek to rescue these children that are being exploited. That's the hardest prong. Fair enough?
It's the hardest one because, illegal aliens have less of a footprint than you and I, but children, they don't own homes. They don't own cars. They don't have credit cards. They don't pay bills. But we're on it. We got a full scale attack on that. I can't tell you a lot about what we're doing because I don't want to show my hand because I don't want people moving and moving them beyond where we think they already are. So we're on it. We have a whole task force on it. We got some great minds on it. So I take that one personally because I am a parent, and you and I have discussed many times. I've talked to little girls young as 9 that were raped multiple times that affected me forever. I've stood in back to tractor trailer with a dead 5-year-old who baked to death. I've done numerous investigations in sex trafficking of children. I take it as personal. Out of the 3 prongs, securing the border, run a deportation operation, and find these children, they're all important. But this is one I take personally because I've had my own life experiences talking to these young victims, and it's a stain on your soul forever. I mean, this is why I get emotional on this issue. That's why I get angry at this issue. Because if you wore my shoes the last 40 years and seen the things I've seen, done the investigations I've done, talked to the people I've talked to, it wears on you, and you got to live with that every day. You lose sleep just thinking about these nightmares. I take it as personal.
Well,
we're all over it.
I know you do. And just know, as I travel around this country, the most common message that I get from people is, tell Tom Homan we're behind him, keep doing what he's doing. And so I just want you to know I hear that from so many people. And we're going to keep telling the story and supporting what you're doing. And I know you're going to keep leaning into it. And I'm sure we'll be together somewhere out in the field very soon. So thank you for taking this time to catch everybody up. There'll be millions of people watching this conversation that we're having here. And I thank you for the time. And I'll see you very soon, lost in America somewhere, I'm sure.
And thank you for helping us educate the American people on exactly what we're doing and why it matters. I appreciate you and your network for everything you're doing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Tom. We'll see you soon.